for me, the next fight is the most interesting one on the prelims. We got Kanako Murata coming back here from a pretty extended layoff, taking on Vanessa Demopoulos. And I got to be honest, Rich, when I did my first look on this fight, I had a much different opinion than the one that I have now. Sometimes the research, will sway you in the right way. Sometimes it'll sway you in the wrong way, but I just got to trust my research on this one. I went pretty deep on this. So I'm going to kick it over to you first, see what you have to say, and then throw out what I've got.
Yeah, well, I've never been a fan of Vanessa. I don't really like her style. I usually just think she's sub or bust in her fights. One thing that's particularly alarming is the fact that when she had the fight with Maria Oliveira, who I don't rate at all, I think she's one of the worst fighters they've ever signed in the UFC. It was a struggle, man. Like, she didn't have a way with her like I thought she would. I bet Vanessa by subbing that one and got burnt. Maybe that's, pushing me to be a bit biased going forward on her fights now. The fact I got burnt on that one. But yeah, like you, I think I know what you're going to say. Murata, I was really confident. I thought she's going to be a parlay piece. But then when I watched the tape and I seen her fight the likes of Ducati and nearly got armbarred like 3 times, and they were deep positions, man. Shame on Emily for not finishing them arm bars. I'm just like, is she going to get finished by an arm bar? Then I'm going to kick myself for it's there, it's in the tape. She's going to get arm barred sooner or later by somebody. So I'm staying away. I'm not going to bet the arm bar for Vanessa, the sub. Sorry. But I just hope I don't kick myself afterwards, man, for not taking the shot. But yeah, there's just I've just seen it too many times with Murata. And she's going to give Vanessa all the opportunity because she's going to take her down and use top control and likely win a boring decision. But yeah, that danger's there, man, for the sub by Vanessa. So I'm staying away for that reason.
When I thought about it, to your point, I'm thinking parlay piece for Kanako Murata. Why? Because I first look at it, I'm like, she's the much younger fighter, 5 years younger, right? 30 years of age. She comes from Japan. Most people don't know wrestling, right? And that's fine, right? It's a very niche sport. Unless you've done it, most people don't care about it at the international level, at the college level, things like this. And that's A-okay. But I'm a nerd, right? I've been wrestling for a long time. I know wrestling. Japanese women's wrestling is fantastic. It's elite. There's no doubt about it. So when I look at girls from Japan that come from a wrestling background strictly, I'm like, whoa, I got to take this seriously because they're world class. But when I look at Kanako Murata, her wrestling is world class. I think that's the only part of her game that is world class, though. And this is a mixed martial arts fight. So I think she's in constant danger when she's fighting. In the first 90 seconds against Virna Jandiroba, she almost got knocked out. The referee came in and was like getting close to them, trying to get a good look at her. Her eyes swole up because of a punch from Virna Jandiroba, who's not very good. Japanese wrestling, Daniel, is world class at the women's level. Go look it up. Go look who wins the women's world championship in wrestling in the Olympics. It's not close. Japan is the best in the world. They're better than the USA, who's also quite good and coming on. So, know what you're talking about, brother. I know what I'm talking about. So in this case, right, what I'm looking about here is the fact that Vanessa Demopoulos is tough as an old leather boot. I bet her twice as an underdog in the UFC. I bet her against Jinh Yu Frey, a way more experienced fighter than her. I bet her against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. So when she was a plus 200 underdog, she cashed for me. When she was a plus 115 underdog, she didn't come through. But I had a much bigger bet on the plus 230 than I did on the plus 115. I took a small speculative shot because Karolina is old, right? Which we'll discuss again later. But when we're talking about a fight like this, Kanako Murata, what's her ideal fight? It's to get on top. It's to get takedowns and top control. You look at how she secures them. She typically does it with an underhook, right? She likes to dig an underhook, grab a hold of people, take them to the ground. When you do that against somebody that is an overhook armbar specialist, I think you're going to be in constant danger. I've seen her have to defend in her last 3 fights, which, by the way, have taken place over the course of like 4 years because she doesn't fight. She hasn't fought in 2 years. She's fought twice since she's been in the UFC, which she signed in 2020, November of 2020. She's had 2 fights. Vanessa Demopoulos has had 8 fights in that amount of time. So one girl is a fighter and the other girl is not right now. So if she's trying to come back, maybe she can. But this is a speculative investment at minus 270, at minus 300. So Murata, her fight before that, had, competitive grappling exchanges with freaking, what's her name? Randa Marcos. Randa Marcos had a heel hook that she was working on at the end of round 1. I'm like, Are you serious? Like when I was rewatching it, I couldn't believe it. Randa Marco's getting back up to her feet 3 and 4 times. So I don't think her top control is all that. Her submission game is actually interesting, right? She does a lot of what I like to do. So she's after my own heart in that way. She has a wrestling-based submission threat, which means she likes to take people down, try and pass the half guard and look for a tight guillotine or a front headlock of some sort and squeeze their head off. Do I think she's going to do that to Vanessa, who's a BJJ black belt with more experience than her? No, I don't think she's going to do that. So for me, I think that Vanessa is going to win this fight. People told me to always fade strippers against Jinyu Frey. That quote exactly. And you know what I said? I'm not going to do that. And then I won a bunch of money. So I'm going to just trust my gut here. I did a bunch of research on this fight. You got a BJJ purple belt versus a black belt. You got a girl that's got a ton of experience who's been very active in the UFC against a girl who hasn't been active in the UFC. It's got to be a dog or pass situation for me, period. So give me Vanessa Demopoulos. I think she wins inside the distance.
Yeah, a couple of things on the Murata side. I don't think she actually broke her arm in her last fight. I think it was a dislocation. I don't know whether you did any research on that and can confirm that.
I did not on the specific injury, but I did rewatch, and she was in like 3 or 4 really deep arm bars. To her credit, she is tough as fuck. She does not want to tap at all, but she also just gets in horrible, horrible positions. And I've always said there's no being a tough guy about a choke. So I would like to see Vanessa Demopoulos go for a choke here rather than just the armbar series from her back.
Yeah, and plus 750 is pretty wild for a women's sub on the Vanessa side. I see Unibet have got it at plus 750. It's pretty wild, man.
Yeah, and the one other thing I'll mention, guys, if this fight plays out purely on the feet, who wins? And my answer is, I think it's a 50-50 fight. Like, these are 2 women of the same size. And Vanessa Demopoulos, her face is a magnet for punches. I'll give you that. She's probably slightly less powerful than Murata overall. I'll give you that. But Murata is not a good striker. I did not like what I was seeing from her. She has a decent jab that she remembers to throw like once every 3 minutes. But I just did not like what I saw from her on the feet. And when I look at Vanessa will take one to give one. She will come forward and throw. She will land a half decent volume for women in this kind of fighting thing. She doesn't have that big a stature, but she's fighting somebody her own size for once. I'm like, I don't know. Give me Vanessa.